A boy looks down and thinks about money. His desk is filled with stacked books and study materials. Late at night, he sits alone in his room and thinks about running away. Online news highlights Assemblyman Kim Yui-soo announcing his challenge for another term. Another article reports that Kim Yui-soo's son has become the top student at school and is gaining public attention. A photo shows the boy standing beside an adult, with text praising him as a son worthy of his father's name. Someone views the photo on a phone, focusing on the boy's image and profile. At school, classmates gather around him, praising his abilities and surrounding him closely. A girl leans in and quietly speaks to him, asking to step outside for a moment. In the classroom, students talk among themselves about his status and background while watching him from a distance. The boy walks through a narrow alley while someone calls out to him and asks him not to act that way. A small group surrounds him, and one person asks him to lend money. He recalls lending a large amount recently and hesitates when more money is requested. Another person grabs him and accuses him of being involved in an illegal website, threatening to report him. The boy denies planning to use the money illegally as the confrontation continues. They pressure him, suggesting that turning themselves in is the only option, while he hesitates and gives no clear answer. A close-up shows his tense expression as he listens to the threat of someone taking the loss. News appears again about Assemblyman Kim Yui-soo being chosen by the people and running for a third term. Later, a girl speaks to the boy privately and tells him she is counting on him. The boy stands alone in front of a closed door, hesitating before going inside. He reaches out and slowly grabs the door handle. Inside, he reacts with frustration as the situation overwhelms him. He freezes in place while someone questions why he is just standing there. An adult faces him directly and asks if he has something to say. The man reminds the boy that the election is approaching soon. The boy listens in silence, showing hesitation and fear. The man grips his collar and demands an answer when none comes. He tightens his hand, showing impatience as the boy remains silent. The man looks at him and questions whether he feels disappointed. The boy smiles and stays silent, hiding his true thoughts. The man tells him to simply lie by following his instructions. Later, the boy is alone in his room, kneeling on the floor as the door remains closed behind him. Alone in his room, the boy lowers his head and questions what he is supposed to do. His hand presses against the floor as his body trembles. He suddenly flinches and looks up in shock. The boy turns toward the cat and asks if it was worried about him. The boy plays with the cat in his room, reacting as it moves and makes sounds. He scolds the cat lightly and lifts it up with both hands. Holding the cat, he pauses and looks at it in silence. He says there is no one on his side, both at school and at home. Later, he sits at his desk with the cat beside him, looking at a game screen. The boy focuses on the game screen and says he has cleared 99 waves. A red alert appears as the screen shows "Game Over." The game repeats the failure screen with flashing warnings. He looks at the screen and prepares to try one more time. The boy checks his phone and recalls resetting the game many times without success. Other players react online, saying the game is extremely difficult and unclear. Live comments question how the game can be cleared at all. The boy warns others not to play as he continues trying. A notice shows that many players have reached wave 99, but the game remains uncleared. The screen shows multiple waves cleared, but no one has managed to clear the 100th wave. The boy looks at his setup and decides he cannot give up at this point. He believes the only way forward is using an item dropped by the 99th wave boss. He equips and enhances the item, which shows the highest stats available. Even after equipping it, he still fails to clear the 100th wave. The boy stares at the screen, unsure how to proceed. The cat places its paw on the phone, interrupting the game. The boy looks down at the cat in surprise. The paw presses a glowing option on the screen. The boy's eyes widen as he reacts to what just happened. The screen confirms that Reiseldrake's heart has been dismantled successfully. The boy reacts in shock as the item disappears from his inventory. The game displays the dismantle result and shows enhancement fragments gained. Sitting at his desk, he holds his head and thinks about starting over from the beginning. He looks up, questioning whether restarting again will change anything. The screen shows the dismantle rewards, including enhancement fragments and a new item. The boy looks at his phone and notices an unfamiliar item labeled Dragon's Soul. He recalls that dismantling items usually only gives enhancement fragments. Seeing Dragon's Soul, he realizes something unusual may have happened. He activates the item as the screen confirms that Dragon's Soul has been used. The boy reacts as an idea forms and selects the option to start again. The game resets, showing the start screen once more. Time passes as he attends class and listens to the lesson. He reads quietly during the day, keeping his focus to himself. At night, he sits alone at his desk, preparing to continue. The boy goes through his daily routine outside and later returns home. At night, he sits alone at his desk and continues playing the game. The screen shows the 99th wave cleared once again. The dismantle result appears, showing the same rewards as before. He watches the screen and thinks that everything is going as expected so far. The game displays level 100, the last wave, and he presses start. The battle begins with enemies flooding the screen. He activates skills and attacks continuously, hoping it works this time. Bright effects and strikes fill the screen as the fight reaches its peak. The screen flashes, showing the final wave in progress. The boy focuses on the screen and commits to clearing the final stage. The game displays a victory screen, confirming the clear. He reacts immediately and shouts that he has cleared it. The door opens as an adult enters the room and questions what he cleared. The boy turns toward him as the adult mentions receiving a call about him. The man confronts the boy, saying others dared to ask him for money using a minor issue as an excuse. He reminds the boy that he was warned not to do anything that could affect his name. The boy panics, apologizes, and insists he did not intend for it to happen that way. Outside the room, the man raises his hand, saying he will make sure this never happens again. The scene ends with a violent motion, implying punishment as the boy remains helpless. The boy cries out as pain overwhelms him and his vision blurs. Tears fall from his eyes as broken glass and the shattered phone lie nearby. He admits to himself that he is weak and cannot go against his father. His thoughts turn bitter as he realizes his father never did anything for him. Standing alone in his room, he looks toward the door and asks if his father has seen his cat, Ruru. The father coldly tells him that he no longer needs the cat, leaving him confused and tense. His jaw tightens as anger rises, and he struggles to hold himself together. The father steps forward and questions his expression, staring down at him. Unable to stay silent, he snaps back and demands to know where Ruru is. The father answers without emotion, saying the cat will be with his dead mother, shocking him completely. He freezes in shock, eyes trembling as he realizes his father is still standing over him. The father grips his face and coldly says he only needs to live exactly as he is told. He promises wealth and honor, but only if his son obeys without question. The boy's eyes shake as the father warns him not to disappoint him ever again. Turning away, the father declares that he believes in him, leaving him crushed and terrified. He breaks down, shaking as he admits he cannot endure this situation anymore. The phone slips from his hand and hits the floor, leaving him empty and lost. A system message appears, announcing that he is the first player to clear night defense. He kneels on the floor, realizing there is no place left to escape or hide. As the broken screen flickers, a new invitation appears, pulling him towards something he can no longer avoid. A bright system message opens a gate and pulls him into a completely new world. A massive beam of light descends over a grand city, drawing everyone's attention. Soldiers and officials turn toward the light, realizing someone has finally arrived. He appears in the hall, kneeling as knights and warriors gather around him. The crowd erupts, calling him the legendary knight and the one who will save them. He stands in silence, feeling strange as no tears come out despite everything he endured. He realizes his emotions feel muted, as if something inside him has been reset. The grand hall grows quiet when the king finally speaks from the throne. The king looks directly at him and asks if he is the legendary knight meant to save the kingdom. He faces the throne calmly, meeting that gaze without fear or hesitation. The king confirms his identity and asks if he is truly the legendary knight meant to save the kingdom. He introduces himself as the young king of the Georgia kingdom and addresses the crisis directly. The scene shifts to the battlefield, revealing monsters invading from all sides. A messenger rushes into the hall, warning that the kingdom is in serious danger and struggling to hold them back. He listens quietly, taking in the kingdom's condition and the gravity of the situation. The king explains that this situation mirrors the beginning of night defense and time is running out. He declares the crisis urgent and orders him to take responsibility without delay. The king offers him the position of knight commander to protect the kingdom. A system window appears, asking him to choose whether to accept or reject the king's offer. As he steps forward, he admits he is unsure if this is a dream, but tells himself to listen carefully before deciding. The king promises an enormous reward, offering him 1 billion if he accepts the role. The hall stirs as people whisper, doubting whether someone like him can truly be a legendary knight. The king adds that the reward is granted only if he becomes the knight commander. He is told to protect the kingdom and humanity from the invading monsters. Without hesitation, he accepts the offer, stating he will take it no matter what it is. He hesitates, quietly confirming that the reward truly includes anything he asks for. The king reassures him that there is nothing to worry about and repeats the promise. He is told that wealth and honor will be granted as long as he follows the king's command. The weight of those words settles in as his expression turns tense and serious. The king firmly states again that he will be given anything he desires. The king speaks with confidence, saying he believes in him and trusts his potential. Hearing this, he suddenly snaps and loudly refuses the offer in front of everyone. The hall freezes as the king turns his head, shocked by the outright rejection. Nobles and officials murmur, realizing his words carry weight because of his background and status. He stands firm, making it clear that no matter where he goes, he will not be controlled. Memories flash through his mind, reminding him how people always tried to take advantage of him. Even here, surrounded by nobles and knights, that same feeling returns. The crowd reacts in shock as he questions the meaning behind the offer. He turns down wealth and fame, making it clear those things do not matter to him. Facing the king directly, he states firmly that he does not need any of it. He looks at everyone in the hall with a cold, steady expression. A system screen appears, and he reaches out without hesitation. He firmly selects decline, rejecting the offer in front of all. The king and officials freeze, unable to believe the legendary knight refused. With a sharp glare, he makes his stance clear and turns his back on them all. After some time passes, the monsters launch a full-scale attack on the kingdom. Without proper protection, the kingdom is overwhelmed and unable to stop them. The scene fades as everything collapses, making it seem like this is the end. A system message appears, stating that the human faction has been rejected. He is then given the authority to choose a completely new faction, revealing the story is not over yet. A new system window appears, revealing a hidden route and unlocking the monster faction. He realizes this is not a defense path, but a completely different choice meant for invasion. The burning city confirms that this route is about attacking, not protecting. The king warns that every decision carries responsibility, but the damage is already done. As the crowd reacts in shock, the title of Legendary Knight is stripped away, marking the start of the invasion route. The king declares him an enemy, accusing him of humiliating the crown and endangering the kingdom. A hidden system window appears, confirming the monster camp route is fully open. The king orders the royal knights to move and demands his execution. Armed knights surround him as the crowd turns hostile, treating him as a traitor. Calmly facing death, he admits he has endured enough, ready to accept whatever comes next. Knights rush in from all sides, surrounding him as weapons clash and chaos erupts inside the hall. He lowers his head, standing still, while the pressure from the soldiers closes in. Gritting his teeth, he admits he has only been holding on until now, pushed to his limit. A violent shock explodes through the room, sending knights flying as screams echo. The king watches in disbelief, realizing the situation has completely slipped out of control. The system confirms the faction selection is complete, and a dark power responds to his choice. New rules appear, granting him abilities beyond human limits while forcing him into direct hostility with humans. The system reveals the true objective of the monster faction, making the conflict unavoidable. He looks ahead with a calm but ruthless expression, fully accepting the path he has chosen. As the countdown begins, he declares it is his turn to attack, signaling the start of the first wave. The system reveals the true ultimate goal of the monster faction without holding anything back. To complete it, the human faction must be completely defeated. The reward for achieving this final objective is finally explained by the system. The player will be allowed to take a powerful item that exists in this world. With that condition in mind, he quietly accepts the path forward, knowing it may lead him back to his original world. A calm memory flashes by, showing a gentle moment with a smiling woman holding a small cat. Suddenly, a violent explosion erupts inside the hall, sending soldiers into chaos. An overwhelming and ominous energy spreads, making everyone freeze in shock. The king senses that the shape and presence are unlike any normal monster. It becomes clear that the terrifying energy was coming directly from that person alone. He realizes the faction selection was never part of the original game, even though the flow feels familiar. A new main quest appears, ordering him to break through the soldiers' defense and attack the humans. Despite the changes, the system is clearly progressing in the same structured way as the game. As the reward is revealed, multiple silhouettes appear, showing a high-rank summon option. When the reward materializes, he is left stunned to find an unexpected egg in his hands. The system explains that, instead of an S-rank knight, he receives a reward tied to his chosen faction. A message confirms he has obtained an S-rank random monster egg and asks whether to hatch it. As energy spreads, nearby soldiers sense a powerful presence and realize something has been summoned. The pressure grows as everyone focuses on the source of the summoning. Seeing the egg, he immediately understands what it is and realizes he has been given something extraordinary from the very start. The system reveals the monster's true identity as Rieseldrak, a dragon known as the strongest boss that appears in the final wave. He realizes that if such a monster were summoned in the center of the kingdom, everything would collapse instantly. Light flashes as the summoning completes, but instead of a massive dragon, a small creature appears. Everyone is shocked when the name Rieseldrak is confirmed, despite its harmless appearance. Checking its status, he sees it starts at level 1 and understands this dragon will grow from the very beginning. The small dragon looks around quietly, reacting to the surroundings without showing hostility. He observes it closely and calls out its name, confirming the summon is stable. a new notification appears, revealing a passive skill called Eye of the Overlord. The skill allows him to view the stats of monsters and items, giving him a clear advantage. Seeing the tiny creature, the soldiers relax, believing it is harmless and no immediate threat. The knights receive the order to charge, closing in on him from all sides. He stays calm and decides that whether this is a dream or reality no longer matters. Activating Eye of the Overlord, he locks onto a target and reads the situation instantly. His gaze sharpens as he focuses on the small dragon standing in front of him. A new skill activates, revealing Dragon Breath at level 1, and he realizes this is his only move right now. As the knights rush forward, he urgently calls out Rieseldrak's name. The small dragon's expression sharpens as energy gathers in front of its mouth. A knight leaps into the air to strike, raising his weapon from above. Seeing no other option, he shouts for the dragon to use its skill. Rieseldrak releases Dragon Breath, firing its first attack straight ahead. The dragon's attack erupts forward, catching the charging knights in its path. A sharp wave of power cuts through the formation, stopping them instantly. Witnessing the impact, his eyes widen as he realizes the attack's reach. The force travels beyond the hall, slicing through the air toward the city. In the distance, buildings shake as the aftermath spreads, proving the skill's overwhelming power. A massive breach opens in the palace wall, revealing the outside as debris scatters across the hall. He stands frozen, staring ahead as the destruction settles around him. The people inside scream in panic, shocked that the royal palace was broken in a single strike. Knights and nobles look around in fear, realizing something terrifying has been summoned. Watching the chaos, he calmly thinks that if things continue like this, taking over the castle might be easier than expected. He learns that the Knight Defense holds countless powerful items, and any one of them could let him return to his original world. Instead of rushing, he decides there is no reason to leave immediately and chooses to stay for now. Standing quietly, he tells himself that his only focus is clearing the mission in front of him. With the small monster by his side, he moves calmly through the damaged palace halls. At that moment, someone calls out to him, revealing that a representative of the human faction has arrived. The king declares that from this moment on, everything will move toward destruction. Standing beside the small monster, the boy states calmly that he will bring ruin and collect his reward no matter what. The monster reacts loudly while the city below begins to shake, sending shockwaves across the capital. From afar, a blonde woman senses something wrong and realizes chaos is unfolding inside the royal palace. As tension rises, someone mutters that it is almost complete, hinting that the destruction has only just begun. As the palace collapses, guards desperately beg for more time while shouting for the king's protection. The boy walks forward calmly with Rieseldrak beside him, asking for one more attack without hesitation. Soldiers rush to form layered shields, screaming orders to protect the king at all costs. Even with multiple barriers raised, the attack tears through the shields and smashes into the royal hall. Unfazed, the boy points ahead and declares the target, while the monster growls, ready to strike again. The king sits frozen on the throne as guards shout and rush to shield him. A warrior arrives dramatically, announcing his presence and standing before the king. Soldiers stack themselves tightly, raising shields while screaming to protect his majesty. The boy watches calmly, recognizing the same attack from earlier as his eye sharpens. Without hesitation, he gives the order to fire, and the dark energy surges forward again. The guards rush forward, shouting that His Majesty is safe as the attack suddenly stops. Confusion spreads through the hall when the king and knights realize the assault has ended. The boy observes the situation closely while his small dragon stays beside him. He recalls how skills work, understanding that knights consume MP when using abilities. Seeing the dragon breath details, he realizes monsters also have limits, and a new opening appears. The boy stops his attack mid-motion, realizing that even a basic strike consumes too much power. He admits it felt suspiciously easy and understands he must wait for the skill's cooldown. As he steadies himself, heavy footsteps echo across the hall, drawing everyone's attention. A powerful knight approaches, accusing him of daring to target the king's life. The boy stays silent, holding his position while the tension in the palace rises again. The knights are explained to be divided by ranks, from apprentices to elite S-rank warriors. Among them stands Ares, one of the Zodiac S-rank elite knights. Ares steps forward with overwhelming presence, recognized as the strongest knight in the kingdom. He immediately checks on the king, confirming his safety while the guards regroup. Seeing Ares arrive, the boy stiffens and realizes the situation has turned dangerous. The atmosphere inside the palace turns tense as the knights prepare, realizing a major conflict is about to begin. Ares receives the order and calmly responds, his weapon igniting as power gathers around him. His sudden appearance and overwhelming aura confirm that an S-rank knight has fully entered the battle. The boy watches in shock, struggling to think of a way out as pressure builds in front of him. Flames rise as Ares releases his area-wide skill, making it clear that escape will not be easy. Ares activates his skill, and a massive wall of flames rises across the area. The fire spreads instantly, engulfing the space around the palace. The boy freezes as he watches the flames crash forward with overwhelming force. The attack tears through the surroundings, leaving destruction in its path. As the heat reaches him, the boy realizes his body cannot withstand this power. Flames surge forward, spreading intense heat as people nearby panic and try to escape. The boy falls back and struggles to move as the fire closes in around him. He quickly understands the skill's pattern, realizing the flames travel in a straight line toward the target. By reacting at the last moment, he narrowly avoids the direct hit. As he looks back at the damage, he realizes the attacker does not care about anyone else caught in the attack. Ares watches the boy evade the attack and calmly comments on his movement. He prepares another strike, focusing his power and aiming directly at the boy. The boy stays alert and realizes the enemy is testing him rather than rushing. He notices that the flame wall skill is temporarily on cooldown. With that opening, the boy understands he still has a small chance to survive. Ares warns the boy not to move and prepares to strike again without hesitation. The boy clenches his teeth, forcing himself to think as he realizes he cannot end here. As pressure closes in, a sudden system notification appears in front of him. It reveals an unclaimed main quest reward and asks whether he wants to claim it. With no time to hesitate, the boy focuses on the reward as his last chance to survive. Cornered and out of options, the boy shouts and activates the reward without hesitation. A golden item materializes in front of him, releasing a sudden surge of power. Ares attacks immediately, but the boy blocks as the summoned force interferes. The battlefield freezes as everyone senses an unfamiliar summoning reaction. Even Ares stares in shock, realizing something completely unexpected has appeared. Using Eye of the Overlord, the boy checks the item and realizes the reward is an S-rank weapon. A blood-red sword materializes, identified as Hellbringer +0, radiating overwhelming magic power. The system's message reveals its nature, hinting at destruction and chaos tied to the blade. As the boy processes the power, a new command appears demanding the annihilation of the human faction. Holding the sword, he understands this weapon could decide everything, and the price may be terrifying. The scene opens as a sudden impact shatters the ground, sending debris flying across the area. The boy looks up in shock, realizing something unexpected has happened nearby. Before he can react, a powerful force rushes toward him. He is thrown backward into the air, losing balance as rocks and dust explode around him. His scream echoes as his body crashes down amid the collapsing rubble. He struggles to stand as the weight and pressure around him overwhelm his body. A strong blast erupts nearby, shaking the area and forcing him to brace himself. His eyes widen as he realizes he has not taken any action yet. The force sends him flying across the battlefield, debris scattering in every direction. He lands hard, clenching his fists, determined not to let things end this way. He steadies himself as the pressure suddenly stops, leaving him confused about what just happened. He looks down and realizes the attack has completely halted. A small red creature appears, flapping its wings as it lands on him. He reacts in shock, recognizing that the creature has transformed into a dragon. People below notice the scene and point upward as they see someone flying in the sky. He realizes he nearly lost everything and understands how close he was to failure. Looking over the kingdom, he sees the clear difference between his current strength and its power. He acknowledges that this is only the beginning and knows he must grow stronger step by step. With danger closing in, he decides that escaping the kingdom is the top priority for now. As he flies away, he questions his status but remains focused on surviving and improving. Ares is overwhelmed by anger and shame, blaming himself for failing his duty. He lowers his head, realizing he has disappointed the king and lost his favor. A sudden message arrives, informing him that His Majesty is summoning him. Trembling, Ares moves forward and begs for punishment for allowing the criminal to escape. The king stops him and calmly warns that the sun is setting, making the situation clear. The king gives his orders, placing the knights in charge of defending the kingdom against the monsters. Ares accepts the command and is told to grow stronger while protecting the walls. As the sun sets, the king silently watches the figure flying away in the distance. Far from the kingdom, the boy continues moving through the sky, already beyond their reach. He recalls a past challenge known for its extreme difficulty, realizing it may become important ahead. The first wave of monsters advances, but the kingdom's defenses remain stable. With Ares guarding the walls using wide-range fire skills, a breach at this stage is unlikely. From the sky, the boy and the small dragon begin losing altitude as their strength drops. He senses they are slowly going down and urges himself to endure a little longer. As they pass the edge of the city, he focuses on escaping the kingdom before collapsing. He realizes they are about to crash and raises his arm instinctively. His body slams into a stone wall, sending dust and debris into the air. He hits the ground hard, the impact echoing through the narrow street. After standing up, he checks himself and notices he is mostly unharmed. Seeing his condition, he realizes his body is far stronger than a normal person's. After recovering from the crash, he senses someone unfamiliar approaching him. He turns in surprise, realizing the presence feels as strong as an S-rank knight. A blonde knight steps forward, calmly demanding that he identify himself. Her presence makes it clear she is no ordinary knight and holds high authority. He understands that she is the one who stopped the later wave that no one else could. The blonde knight demands his identity, maintaining a firm and controlled stance. He recognizes her as Lib, an S-rank knight rarely seen on the battlefield. He recalls that she was usually assigned to special missions rather than direct defense. In his memory, her power was the key to stopping the final wave through a rare ability. Realizing this, he understands that only he knew her true value until now. He calmly tells her that he knows her well after repeating many failed attempts in the past. When she questions his words, he explains that he needed time to truly understand her value. He states that she was the key piece in shaping his overall strategy. With the situation now changed, his expression turns serious as he reassesses priorities. He concludes that she has become the main obstacle he must deal with first. The goblins roar as they rush forward, their red eyes glowing with aggression. Soldiers on the walls panic and shout warnings as the enemies draw closer. Archers and guards launch arrows downward while stones rain from above. Despite the attacks, several goblins push through and start climbing the walls. The defenders brace themselves, determined to stop the monsters from breaking in. The battle intensifies as the walls shake and soldiers realize they cannot hold much longer. Amid the chaos, news spreads that Lord Ares is heading toward the battlefield. The troops react with surprise but decide to hold their positions until help arrives. Nearby, the blonde knight presses him for answers, reminding him that the kingdom is at war. When he stays silent, she warns that she will make her own judgment if he does not respond. He decides that dealing with her directly is not possible right now and chooses to retreat. Changing his tone, he casually introduces himself as an ordinary citizen from District 1. He adds that he wanted to help in the war, but simply ended up lost instead. As he gestures lightly, a small red creature suddenly appears beside him. Seeing it clearly, the blonde knight stiffens and realizes the presence is a monster. The presence of the monster inside the palace raises suspicion, and he realizes he may be seen as an accomplice. He understands that once a fight starts, there will be no chance to turn back. Judging the situation, he knows he cannot win against her in close combat right now. After listening carefully, the blonde knight reassesses the scene and admits her mistake. She lowers her guard, realizing he was an innocent citizen being chased, and promises to protect him. The small red creature makes a soft sound, tilting its head in confusion. The blonde knight watches it closely, her expression firm and cautious. Up close, the creature appears harmless, blinking with a simple and calm look. Standing beside them, she lowers her tension and quietly observes its behavior. As the battle continues in the distance, he realizes this reaction reveals her straightforward personality. A sudden explosion shakes the area, drawing everyone's attention. Using the confusion, he quickly slips away from the scene. The blonde knight looks around in surprise, realizing he has disappeared. Soldiers rush in, calling out to her and reporting the situation at the gate. She turns toward the battlefield, understanding she must return to her duty. The gate trembles as repeated impacts crack the wooden surface. Soldiers tighten their grip on their weapons, realizing the enemy is about to break through. The damage spreads across the gate, signaling an imminent breach. Lady Lib steps forward and orders everyone to drop their bows and prepare for close combat. As goblins swarm below, the defenders brace themselves to protect the gate at all costs. A massive goblin swings its weapon, smashing against the gate with full force. Cracks spread rapidly as the gate shakes under repeated heavy impacts. The soldiers line up tightly, drawing their swords and preparing themselves. Another strike slams into the gate, pushing it closer to breaking open. Lady Lib steps forward and commands everyone to prepare for a counterattack. A giant goblin roars as the battlefield erupts in chaos near the gate. A powerful strike crashes down, sending shockwaves through the defenders. From a distance, the commander moves forward, seeing the situation unfold. Lady Lib turns sharply, realizing the gate is already close to falling. As the pressure mounts, the arrival of Ares becomes the last hope to stabilize the fight. Ares raises his weapon and releases a massive wall of fire across the battlefield. The flames surge forward, stopping the monster advance in an instant. With the attack complete, the pressure on the gate finally eases. The battlefield shifts as the balance clearly turns in the kingdom's favor. Watching from afar, he realizes this is the power of the one who once stopped 100 waves. He realizes the situation has completely reversed, with the monsters now aiming to erase humanity itself. To change the outcome, he decides the enemy must be destroyed within 100 waves. Thinking back, he believes that returning to that critical moment could make the impossible achievable. As he calms himself, he gently reassures the small red creature to stay still for now. With a clear plan forming, he prepares to rewrite the fate of the coming battle. The battlefield erupts in cheers as the defenders realize the fight is finally over and victory is secured. She stands silently amid the ruins, calm and resolute, as the memory of this place etches itself into her mind. From a distance, he walks away into the forest, vowing that when he returns here again, it will be for the last time. The soldiers erupt in cheers as the battle ends, celebrating their hard-fought victory at the gates. He holds the small creature calmly and tells it to wait a little longer as the noise fades. She stands in silence, looking over the ruined battlefield with a steady and unreadable expression. He turns away and walks into the forest, leaving the city behind without looking back. From afar, the city remains standing, while his resolve hardens that when he returns to this place, it will mark the final end. He stands in the forest and realizes he has finally arrived at the territory controlled by the monster faction. Walking forward with the small creature beside him, he confirms that this is no longer part of the kingdom he once knew. He recalls resetting the game countless times, enduring all 100 waves to survive and learn every detail. Thanks to those experiences, he understands the kingdom's battle tactics and defenses perfectly. Now, starting from nothing, he chooses a new path that never existed in night defense and moves forward without hesitation. He stops in the forest, sensing that he is close to something important, and scans the area carefully. The small red creature appears in his arms, and he calls out to it, confirming it has returned safely. The creature floats ahead silently, guiding him forward without explanation. His expression shifts as he notices movement on the ground and focuses on what lies ahead. He sees a group of ant-like monsters carrying stones and watches them in confusion, realizing these creatures are his next encounter. He watches the ant-like creatures closely and notices their stiff movements and simple actions. One of the ants freezes in panic when it senses him nearby, clearly overwhelmed. As he keeps observing, the small red creature mirrors the ant's behavior, making him pause and think. He reflects on what to do next, weighing his options while staying completely still. At that moment, a new quest suddenly appears, signaling the start of his next move. A new main quest appears, ordering him to unite monsters and establish a monster faction from scratch. He studies the task carefully and realizes this time he must gather monsters directly instead of relying on the kingdom's system. Thinking about early game monsters, he expects to see basic creatures, but none appear around him. He looks across the empty land, questioning why there are no goblins or even weak monsters in sight. As he considers recruiting monsters, he realizes the real problem is communication and wonders how he is supposed to speak their language. Without warning, a hostile presence attacks him, shouting and launching a sudden strike. He is caught off guard and pushed back, his body reacting on instinct. Shock shows on his face as he realizes the monster can clearly target him. Green energy swirls around as he regains his footing and steadies himself. Standing firm, he understands that this encounter has turned into a real fight and retreat is no longer an option. He groans in pain, tightening his expression as the sudden pressure on his body eases. He feels a hand on his shoulder and realizes the attack has abruptly stopped. His eyes widen as he turns his head, trying to understand what just intervened. White hair flows into view, and a calm presence stands between him and danger. He focuses on the figure before him and recognizes her as a beastkin who halted the fight. He blurts out in surprise, mistaking the beastkin for a rabbit based on her appearance. She immediately reacts with anger, pointing at her ears and tail to deny his assumption. Stepping closer, she firmly explains that she is much closer to a fox than a rabbit. She continues arguing, clearly offended, while emphasizing her identity again and again. Watching her closely, he quietly rethinks his words and realizes she is a white fox beastkin. He reacts in surprise as the white fox beastkin suddenly steps closer and starts examining him. She circles around, watching him carefully while making quiet judgments. Other beastkin gather behind him, surrounding him and blocking his escape. The white fox pauses and points out that he looks human but feels strange to her senses. Hearing this, he grows tense and realizes they are questioning whether he is truly human or something else. A system message appears, announcing that 2 passive skills have been permanently activated. He gains the ability to communicate with monsters and naturally draw their goodwill. Realizing this, he understands why he can clearly hear and understand the monsters around him. While he thinks things through out loud, the white fox watches him with a puzzled expression. He suddenly refocuses, realizing the situation has changed and that these abilities give him a real chance to move forward. As he tries to explain himself, the fox girl suddenly reacts, questioning who he really is. He recalls the passive skill that should attract positive attention from monsters, expecting things to go smoothly. Before he can act, a sharp attack flies in and strikes with perfect accuracy. The sudden ambush reveals a new group approaching from the forest. Smiling confidently, the newcomers announce they finally found their target, proving the situation is already turning dangerous. The fox girl realizes he is human and accuses him of setting a trap, convinced this was planned. She angrily demands to know why humans are chasing them and what he really wants. From a distance, armed humans appear, confirming that people from outside the kingdom are involved. The tension rises as the fox girl assumes he is working with the pursuers. Cornered and confused, he tries to stop the situation, insisting there has been a misunderstanding. As he tries to explain himself, the fox girl loses patience and tells him to stop mumbling. Suddenly, a rope snaps tight and she is violently pulled off balance into the air. Before anyone can react, a muscular bandit charges forward, roaring as he attacks. Using the momentum of the rope, the fox girl twists her body midair to counter. The ambush turns into a full clash as she launches herself back at the attacker. The boy turns in shock as a violent impact erupts right beside him. The bandit grins confidently, certain his strike has landed cleanly. His eyes narrow as he pushes forward, expecting his opponent to collapse. Instead, the fox girl blocks the blow head-on, her arm absorbing the full force. She stares back calmly, proving the attack wasn't enough to take her down. The fox girl twists her body and strikes back with a sharp counterattack. The bandit's eyes widen as he realizes he failed to read her movement. Her attack slams down with force, driving him straight into the ground. The surrounding bandits freeze, stunned by how quickly the situation turns. One of them watches in silence, clearly understanding that the fight is no longer in their favor. The fox girl is knocked down, struggling to get back up as dust spreads across the ground. One of the men steps forward and strikes again, not giving her any time to recover. She clenches her teeth and tries to endure the pain while pinned in place. From behind, the boy watches closely, sensing that something about the situation is wrong. As the attackers surround her, it becomes clear she is being treated as nothing more than a target. The boy clenches his fist as another man steps in front of him and checks if he is injured. The man calmly warns that this area is dangerous and filled with hostile creatures. The boy looks back and explains he did not expect things to escalate this far. In the distance, the fox girl remains on the ground while another attacker keeps shouting at her. The situation stays tense, making it clear the danger has not ended yet. One of the attackers raises his weapon again, clearly losing control as the situation escalates. The boy steps forward with a sharp look, silently signaling that things have gone too far. Another man intervenes and firmly orders everyone to stop before anyone gets seriously hurt. The attacker freezes and lowers his weapon, realizing the consequences of continuing. As the tension eases, the boy exhales quietly, while the conflict is finally brought under control. A man suddenly steps closer, staring at the boy with a sharp and unsettling expression. He points out that the boy was communicating with the creature earlier. The boy freezes in shock, clearly not expecting to be confronted about it. As the man approaches, a blood-stained weapon lies on the ground between them. The boy clutches his chest in confusion, unsure how to respond as the tension rises again. The fox girl looks on in shock as the boy suddenly feels pain spreading through his body. He struggles to stay standing while another man calmly explains that no vital areas were hit. The boy coughs and weakens further, realizing something is wrong with him. A vial is shown as the man reveals the boy has limited time before the effect worsens. He warns the boy that survival depends on getting a proper translation, leaving no room for delay. The fox girl reacts in pain as her ear is grabbed, clearly upset but forced to answer. She explains where her group lives, hesitating before giving details. She identifies the place as a den, specifying that it belongs to foxes. The boy listens carefully and repeats the location to confirm he understood correctly. The scene ends with the fox den being clearly identified as their destination. The group explains that the so-called fox den is simply a rough name for the place. They reveal there is a village nearby where beast folk live together. The boy questions why they would head toward a village instead. The fox girl reacts with worry, warning that moving there could cause serious trouble. The scene ends with rising tension as the destination shifts from the den to the village. The boy watches in alarm as the situation suddenly turns more aggressive. The fox girl is restrained, struggling as someone silences her forcefully. The boy realizes she was acting to protect her village, not out of hostility. Tension spikes as harsh judgments are made about beast folk behavior. One man coldly states the danger they face, making the threat feel immediate and unavoidable. The group calms down as the leader explains that foxes are intelligent creatures who can sense danger, even without understanding words. He orders the boy to translate and guide them to the fox den, claiming they only want to take what they need and leave quietly. The boy listens carefully, realizing they are using fear and false promises to force cooperation. The man assures him that if they succeed, both the boy and the captured beastwoman will be allowed to live. As the deal is laid out, the tension remains high, making it clear that refusal is not an option. The boy remembers his past, where being used and bullied never mattered as long as he got what he needed to survive. He steadies himself, reminding himself that as long as he is useful, they will not kill him yet. Despite the pain and fear, he forces his body to move, knowing he cannot afford to die here. Accepting the situation, he decides to cooperate and guide them forward. With a quiet resolve, he agrees to lead them all the way to the village. The fox girl lowers her head, saying that if they listen, no one else will get hurt. The humans notice that he truly understands monster language, just as they suspected. Watching him closely, the fox girl feels he is different from other humans and admits they may have feared humans too much. Gathering her courage, she looks up and asks if she can trust his words. Injured and silent, he meets her gaze without answering, letting his resolve speak for itself. He says calmly that he is not on humanity's side and tells her she can believe him. Pointing out the group behind him, he explains that those people are dangerous. Blood drips from his mouth as he stays silent for a moment, showing he is barely holding on. Behind the fox girl, the man stiffens when a strange red creature suddenly appears above him. Distracted by the sudden presence, he demands to know why the boy stopped translating. The boy hesitates, blood still on his lips, and tries to explain himself more clearly. A strange red creature suddenly appears, its single eye glowing as it floats in the air. The man notices the boy's attitude shift and realizes something about him has changed. Shock spreads through the group as they recognize the creature and call it a monster. Everyone freezes, staring at the floating being, confused about when it appeared and what it is. The red creature suddenly attacks, firing a beam as it uses dragon breath without warning. Someone shouts to dodge, but the attack comes too fast, leaving no time to react. The man turns in shock as the beam pierces straight through his eye. He collapses instantly, unable to finish his move or protect anyone. From above, the group watches in horror as the red creature floats calmly, proving it is far more dangerous than expected. The injured boy freezes in shock as the others stare at the scene, unable to react. The two men look up in confusion, realizing the situation has suddenly changed. The red creature floats in the air and screams loudly, gathering energy again. The boy clenches his teeth, noticing the cooldown is still not finished. Smoke rises from the ground, signaling that another attack may happen at any moment. The men stare at the scorched ground, realizing the attack was not even at full strength. One of them tightens his grip on his weapon, understanding how close he came to danger. The man lunges forward and strikes the red creature, trying to knock it away. The injured boy watches in shock as the situation escalates even further. Dust and debris explode across the ground as the creature is sent flying. The creature crashes to the ground, stunned by the sudden counterattack. The armed man turns back angrily, realizing he was almost caught off guard. He questions the creature's value while the others suggest capturing it alive. The injured boy lowers his gaze, silently watching as the decision is made. The leader steps forward, orders the others to watch the pair, and decides to handle the creature himself. The creature groans on the ground, still shaken from the earlier impact. The boy clenches his teeth, realizing his ability to understand monsters is the only reason he is still alive. A brief flashback shows him standing alone in the past, surrounded by people who look down on him. He remembers being judged only by how useful he was to others. Back in the present, he lowers his head, silently weighing his worth once again. The boy recalls a past moment, standing alone at the door, already knowing the path he was heading toward. Back in the present, he steps forward despite the danger, his injured hand hanging by his side. The armed man raises his weapon, moving in to strike without hesitation. The beast girl looks up in panic as the boy positions himself in front of her. With his head lowered and expression steady, he accepts the role others have forced on him and prepares to face what comes next. A sudden system message appears, showing that a passive ability has activated on its own. In the next instant, the boy's body moves faster and stronger than before. The ground cracks as he launches forward with overwhelming force. The beast girl stares in shock, sensing a power far beyond normal limits. The men freeze in disbelief as they realize the true source of the strength standing before them. The enemy boss collapses, coughing blood as his poisoned body finally gives out. Even so, the boy keeps moving forward, ignoring the pain that should have killed him. The others panic, unable to understand how he is still standing after the poison. The beast girl watches in silence, shocked by his will and unnatural endurance. He kneels down and gently picks up the injured fox, choosing protection over pursuit. The enemy boss screams as blood pours from his mouth and his body finally gives out. Looking at a small red creature, Jihoon is reminded of a child from his past, sparking a deep and sudden connection. Despite being visibly injured, Jihoon offers a gentle smile and promises to safeguard the vulnerable creature at any cost. His display of kindness is contrasted by a harsh and self-loathing internal thought that highlights his complex mental state. Nearby, a group of enemies shouts desperate warnings about their powerful boss, threatening severe retaliation for the current situation. Ignoring the aggressive posturing of his opponents, Jihoon remains on the ground, completely dedicated to protecting his small companion. Despite his physical injuries, Jihoon maintains a fierce and focused expression, showing his refusal to back down. The defeated group flees the scene, supporting one another as they retreat into the safety of the dense forest. As the group disappears, they shout a final, desperate warning, though Jihoon remains completely unfazed by their words. The small red companion celebrates their victory with a loud and energetic roar, signaling the successful end of the skirmish. Jihoon looks down at the creature with a weary but calm expression, taking a quiet moment to recover after the intense battle. Pushed beyond his physical limits, Jihoon collapses in the dirt while being observed by a mysterious, silver-haired warrior. The warrior watches him from a distance with a serious expression, carefully evaluating his condition. As Jihoon lies motionless, several small red creatures gather around him, attempting to communicate through mimicry. Fading into unconsciousness, Jihoon wonders if he is destined to meet his end in this strange and desolate place. The small creatures watch over him in confusion, leaving his fate hanging in the balance as his strength continues to fail. A painful memory surfaces of Jihoon as a child, sitting alone in a hospital room and waiting for someone who never arrived. He reflects on his anger toward a specific person, feeling bitter about their abandonment during a critical time. The weight of the betrayal settles in as he realizes that his hopes for support were ultimately met with silence. The dark memory fades as Jihoon's eyes snap open, bringing him back to the reality of the present world. Looking around at the jagged shadows of a cave, he finds himself disoriented and questioning his current location. Rhea carries the injured Jihoon out of the cave, cautioning him to stay still while he questions why she chose to save him. Guided by torchlight, they make their way out of the jagged cavern and toward a massive red canyon. Rhea returns to her settlement, immediately drawing attention as the residents realize she has brought a human back with her. A group of rabbit-eared residents gathers to watch the newcomer, whispering amongst themselves about his unexpected appearance. While they find Jihoon's presence strange, the villagers admit they feel an inexplicable and powerful pull toward the mysterious human. As the poison clears from his system, a group of curious rabbit-eared villagers gathers to watch Jihoon, eagerly waiting for him to wake up. Jihoon finally regains consciousness, but discovers that he is still physically unable to lift himself from his resting place. Outside the building, Rhea confronts the growing crowd, asking them to disperse and allow her guests some space to recover in peace. A calm voice interrupts the villagers' interrogation of Rhea, reminding everyone to remain quiet so their guest can rest undisturbed. Hearing the mysterious newcomer speak, Jihoon's eyes snap open as he recognizes a voice that feels deeply and suddenly familiar. Jihoon wakes up to find Rhea watching over him as he begins to recover from his injuries. Rhea explains that her people have rarely seen a human who actually appears human, emphasizing how unusual his presence is. She further notes that Jihoon lacks the typical scent of a human, adding to the mystery surrounding his true nature. Examining his hands, Jihoon realizes the lethal poison aura that once plagued him has completely vanished. Rhea confirms that the local village provided a life-saving antidote, leaving Jihoon stunned to find himself in a safe haven. Jihoon listens as Rhea recalls a past trauma where bringing humans to her village threatened the safety of her entire tribe. Rhea's non-human nature is emphasized, marking her as a creature that would typically be hostile toward Jihoon's kind. Still puzzled by his survival, Jihoon questions why Rhea chose to save him despite her deep-seated wariness of humans. Rhea explains that her decision was driven by his unique scent, which lacks the typical smell of a human. While Jihoon remains skeptical of her simplistic reasoning, the two continue their tentative dialogue about their unexpected alliance. Rhea reveals that her decision to save Jihoon was influenced by seeing him in a vulnerable state while he protected his small companion. Still analyzing his situation, Jihoon wonders if Rhea's kindness is merely a result of his likable monster passive skill. Rhea grows frustrated with his constant internal monologue, reprimanding him for whispering to himself instead of engaging with her. Despite having just saved his life, she loses her patience with Jihoon's persistent questions and labels him as incredibly irritating. Amidst their bickering, the small red creature rests nearby, blissfully unaware of the tension between its two protectors. Rhea expresses her surprise at Jihoon's dedication, admitting she didn't expect him to go to such lengths for her sake. She reluctantly acknowledges that he saved her life as well, suggesting they consider their mutual assistance as a balanced exchange. While Jihoon processes her words, Rhea attempts to maintain her composure despite the underlying tension of their new partnership. Their conversation is interrupted by a high-pitched cry from the small red creature, immediately catching Jihoon's attention. Realizing the true nature of his companion, Jihoon identifies the creature as a riseldrake as it celebrates with an energetic roar. Jihoon enjoys a playful moment with the red creature as Rhea suggests they finally exchange names to formalize their partnership. Their introduction is abruptly cut short by a frantic messenger delivering an urgent summons from the settlement's leadership. Rhea is ordered to bring her human guest before the village chief immediately, causing her visible frustration. As they move through the area, the pair is dwarfed by the massive and breathtaking red cliffs that hide the village. Jihoon reacts with genuine excitement upon realizing he has officially entered a fabled location, the village of the beastfolk. Jihoon learns that Warren, once a rabid beastfolk settlement, has become a diverse haven for various tribes displaced from their homes. As they move through the village, the residents warmly greet Rhea and express genuine worry over her recent travels. Jihoon is struck by the impressive physical variety of the beastfolk, especially the massive strength displayed by those performing heavy labor. While the atmosphere is generally peaceful, some of the stronger villagers watch the human outsider with clear and intense suspicion. Jihoon notes how deeply the community cares for Rhea, leaving her surprised by his sudden insight into her relationships with her people. Sensing that Rhea has been unusually quiet and upset during their walk, Jihoon asks her what is wrong. Instead of a calm answer, Rhea snaps at him with an aggressive shout that catches Jihoon completely off guard. She angrily asks if his name is simply Hey, reprimanding him for failing to provide a proper and respectful introduction. Rhea stands firmly with her arms crossed, maintaining a stern expression as she waits for him to correct his behavior. Stunned by her sudden intensity, Jihoon finally realizes his oversight and prepares to properly introduce himself. Jihoon finally shares his name, though he privately worries that it sounds too alien for this fantasy world. In response, Rhea proudly provides her incredibly long and complex full name, leaving Jihoon stunned by its complexity. Their conversation is cut short as a small rabbit-like resident pops out from the ground to check on Rhea's well-being. Rhea reacts with joy and engages with the local, her earlier frustration vanishing as she confirms she has successfully recovered. Jihoon observes her sudden shift in mood, realizing that Rhea simply wanted the respect of a proper introduction. The game system issues a new main quest, tasking Jihoon with rallying various monsters to build a powerful faction. Jihoon reflects on the objective, realizing that his journey has officially shifted toward becoming a leader for the monster side. Rhea interrupts his contemplation, waving for him to hurry to their upcoming meeting with the village chief. As they walk, Jihoon is amused by Rhea's cheerful energy and her earlier insistence on exchanging formal names. Following Rhea into the settlement, Jihoon focuses on his goal, prepared to use the beastfolk village as the foundation for his new faction. The elderly village chief shocks everyone by calmly announcing that Jihoon will be taking over leadership of the village from now on. Both Jihoon and Rhea react with absolute astonishment, unable to comprehend the chief's sudden and illogical decision. Jihoon desperately tries to stop the old man, arguing that it makes no sense to entrust a stranger with the fate of their community. While Jihoon points out his lack of local knowledge, the chief dismisses the concerns by claiming he is simply too old to continue leading. Ignoring Rhea's logical objections about following a mere dream, the chief chuckles and walks away, leaving the pair with a massive new responsibility. The village chief ignores all protests, explaining that his vivid dreams are actually prophecies that always become reality. He firmly identifies Jihoon as the person destined to save their village, dismissing any doubts about entrusting a stranger with leadership. As the chief departs, Jihoon remains stoic, absorbing the weight of this sudden and monumental expectation. The game system confirms the chief's words by officially triggering a quest to construct a monster faction. To complete the task and earn a random skill reward, Jihoon must now begin the difficult work of rallying monsters to his side. Jihoon senses an imminent threat approaching the village, suspecting that their peace is about to be shattered. He remembers a woman's warning about a lost item and the lethal consequences for himself and the beast folk if it isn't found. Alarmed by the growing danger, he immediately seeks clarification from his companion to assess their safety. Jihoon calls out to Rhea, stopping her in her tracks to discuss his suspicions about their journey. He asks her directly if they were followed to the settlement, worried that their location has already been leaked to their enemies. Rhea reveals that Warren is a village perfectly concealed behind the treacherous peaks of the Stone Mountain. Surrounded by a vast sea and steep cliffs, the settlement has remained undiscovered for generations because no one has dared to explore the area. She explains that the only alternate entrance is through a network of underground tunnels originally dug by rabbit beastfolk. The interior of this passage is a complex, maze-like structure designed to confuse and deter anyone attempting to infiltrate the village. Rhea concludes that without specific knowledge, finding the true path to Warren is nearly impossible for any outsider. Jihoon is consumed by a growing unease while observing that her leg wound is still dripping blood. The trail of blood marks their path through the secret tunnel, leaving a clear map for anyone following them. Lurking in the shadows of the cave, a sinister man smiles as he successfully tracks the bloodstains through the labyrinth. The mysterious pursuer finally reaches the edge of the cavern, having navigated the supposedly impossible path with ease. Overlooking the valley, he declares that he has finally found the hidden village, signaling an immediate threat to the beastfolk's sanctuary. The peace of Warren is suddenly shattered as the beastfolk realize a human intruder has successfully infiltrated their hidden sanctuary. A massive warrior bellows warnings in the monster tongue while guarding a bound captive, signaling an immediate threat to the community. Jihoon quickly deduces that the pursuer used the blood from their recent wounds to navigate the supposedly impossible path through the tunnels. Rhea is left in a state of absolute shock, realizing that her efforts to keep watch were completely undermined during their journey. The discovery of the intruder reveals that the village's location is no longer safe, forcing the group to face the consequences of being followed. Rhea tearfully apologizes to the community, blaming herself for bringing a human and unknowingly leading an intruder to their gates. A village warrior comforts her, acknowledging the extreme physical and mental exhaustion she endured while saving Jihoon. While the villagers believe capturing one man is enough to secure their safety, Jihoon realizes 2 additional bandits remain unaccounted for. Jihoon urgently questions Rhea about the missing intruders, sensing that their current situation is much more precarious than it seems. The captured bandit mockingly laughs at his captors, vowing that the entire settlement will soon be consumed by flames. The captured intruder proudly claims membership in a notorious bandit crew that has successfully defied the kingdom's authority. He warns the villagers that their legendary leader, Screaming All, is currently approaching with a force of over 200 men. Jihoon reacts with intense focus to the mention of the leader's name, sensing that a major conflict is about to erupt. Deep within a dark cavern, the remaining members of the crew prepare for their next move under their superior's guidance. Emerging from the shadows, the scarred and imposing leader readies his forces for a brutal assault on the beastfolk sanctuary. A bloodied bandit frantically begs his leader for revenge against the human who defeated him. He reveals that he successfully located the secret fox den used by the beast folk to bypass their village's natural defenses. The bandit leader, screaming all, commends his subordinate for uncovering this critical path into the hidden sanctuary. With a dark chuckle, the leader prepares his forces to exploit the newly discovered weakness. The bandit crew immediately begins their march toward the secret entrance, posing an imminent and lethal threat to the beast folk. The captured bandit reveals that he was never alone and that his presence was merely a calculated part of his leader's plan. Deep in the forest, the wounded female bandit leader ignores her subordinates' frantic pleas to stop and receive medical treatment. Driven by her objective, she firmly refuses to return to their hideout until their current mission is successfully completed. Despite her physical injuries, she continues to push through the woods with a singular and dangerous focus. Reaching the edge of the clearing, she observes her targets and concludes that the time for their final strike has finally arrived. The captured bandit mockingly warns the villagers that they are all marked for death as his crew's plan begins to unfold. Rhea reacts with confusion and growing alarm, questioning the meaning behind the intruder's sinister threats. Sensing an immediate change in the atmosphere, Rhea urgently calls out to Jihoon for guidance. Jihoon remains stoic and analytical, realizing that the bandits' reinforcements are already closing in on their location. The gravity of their compromised safety finally settles in, leaving Rhea in a state of absolute, wide-eyed terror. Hearing the name Screaming All allows Jihoon to connect the current threat to his extensive knowledge of the game Night Defense. He recalls the game's core mechanic of defending the kingdom against endless monster waves to earn experience. However, he also remembers that simple leveling was never enough to survive the scaling difficulty of those waves forever. To overcome this, the game utilized a secondary system focused on managing a roster of specialized adventurers. Success depended on strategically forming parties of knights and deploying them to clear stages and complete vital missions. Jihoon recalls the game's progression system, where clearing stages rewarded players with specialized equipment and currency. He remembers that the game featured 100 distinct levels, stretching from goblin territories to the Demon King's stronghold. Despite the scale of the world, he maintains a clear memory of the final challenge presented at the end of the first chapter. He identifies Stage 110 as taking place in a specific settlement concealed behind a rocky hill. This meta-knowledge confirms that the village is actually the Screaming All's hideout, a notorious location from his previous experience with the game. Jihoon recalls that every game stage had a backstory, identifying the current village as the notorious hideout of the bandit leader, Screaming All. He realizes that Warren was never a named stage in the game, suggesting that the village's peaceful identity is absent from the original records. A grim memory from the game's lore resurfaces, revealing that according to the official story, this entire settlement is destined for total destruction. Attempting to exploit the situation, the captured bandit presents a suspicious offer to the surrounding beast folk. The intruder promises to persuade his boss to show mercy to whoever releases him, desperately trying to trade his freedom for the village's safety. The bandit's manipulative words begin to sow confusion among the villagers, even though many do not fully understand his language. The community's sense of security quickly evaporates as the youngest residents react with visible fear to the tense atmosphere. Rhea is consumed by remorse, believing that her actions have directly invited disaster upon her people and their hidden home. The intruder arrogantly demands his release, fully aware that his crew intends to transform the peaceful village into their new stronghold. Driven by his knowledge of the game's tragic lore, Jihoon settles into a cold determination to prevent the settlement's destruction. The bound bandit continues his aggressive posturing, shouting threats at the gathered beastfolk while demanding his immediate release. Jihoon interrupts the confrontation, identifying the bandit's presence as the perfect starting point for building his own faction. He coldly orders the intruder to serve as his interpreter, preparing to use the man to bridge the communication gap with the village. When the bandit fails to comply, Jihoon delivers a crushing blow that instantly ends the man's vocal defiance. With the opposition neutralized, Jihoon resolves to transform the village of Warren into the foundation for his future monster army. The villagers watch in stunned silence as Jihoon effortlessly neutralizes the bandit with a single, crushing blow. Rhea reacts with absolute shock, paralyzed by the sudden and terrifying display of power from the man she recently rescued. Amidst the carnage, the remaining witnesses are left in total disbelief as they realize their earlier arrogance was misplaced. Standing over his fallen opponent, Jihoon remains entirely unfazed, his focus already shifted toward the next phase of his plan. Recognizing the looming siege, he officially declares his intent to fight, signaling the start of a much larger conflict for the village. Rhea declares her unwavering commitment to defending the village, regardless of the overwhelming odds they face. The village chief immediately dismisses her vow, bluntly stating that protecting their sanctuary is an impossible task. He explains that the village was built in hiding specifically because its residents are far too weak to survive an open conflict. The chief emphasizes that their community consists mostly of women and children who have never experienced the brutality of a real battle. Despite the grim outlook, the chief laughs and commends Rhea's intelligence, challenging her to accept the fragile nature of their home. The old chief gathers the entire village to formally announce that Jihoon is now the official leader of Warren. Accompanied by his small red companion, Jihoon stands before the community, ready to take on the massive responsibility. Meanwhile, a group of hostile bandits begins a silent and coordinated march toward the settlement's hidden borders. Guided by a scout, the bandit leader finally reaches the ridge and confirms the location of the peaceful village. Admiring the secluded site, the boss declares his intent to seize Warren by force, signaling an imminent invasion. The bandit leader rallies his crew, declaring his intent to slaughter the villagers and transform their peaceful home into a new base for his gang. With bloodthirsty shouts, a massive army of 200 armed bandits begins its coordinated descent toward the hidden settlement. Faced with the impending siege, Jihoon meets with a village warrior to calculate the staggering difference between their numbers and the enemy's force. The warrior reveals their severely limited fighting force, consisting of only a handful of bull and deer beast folk to defend the entire community. As the massive bandit army approaches, the small group of defenders must prepare for a desperate struggle against impossible odds. The village's meager defense force is completed by 5 timid sheep beast folk and a single fox warrior, Rhea. Including every resident, the grand total comes to only 112, leaving them facing an army nearly double their size. A village warrior openly questions if they stand a chance against such overwhelming numbers. Jihoon remains composed, reflecting on his knowledge of game mechanics where sheer quantity does not always dictate the outcome. He concludes that individual stats, ranks, and levels are the true factors that will determine their survival in the coming battle. Jihoon analyzes Rhea's recent combat performance, noting her impressive ability to easily dispatch bandits even while being ambushed. He begins to question the claim that the villagers are inexperienced in battle, suspecting their peaceful nature masks a deeper strength. Jihoon considers the fabled beast form ability, realizing the residents may possess untapped, transformative power. This insight suggests that the community's fighting potential has been vastly undervalued by both their enemies and themselves. He concludes that if the villagers can harness this power, they can successfully neutralize the bandit army's massive numerical advantage. Jihoon consults with a bull beast folk named Tor to accurately gauge Rhea's combat standing within the village hierarchy. He views the current crisis as a manageable starter mission, trusting that the game provides achievable goals for its players. Tor officially identifies Rhea as the village's champion, ranking her as the single strongest warrior in all of Warren. He reveals that Rhea's individual strength is so overwhelming that she could easily defeat the entire village ganged up against her. This confirmation reinforces Jihoon's belief that while their numbers are small, their elite fighters provide a viable path to victory. Jihoon realizes that even if the entire village fought together, they would still be unable to overcome Rhea's superior strength. This calculation leads him to the grim conclusion that the community's overall combat potential is severely lacking. He ultimately determines that aside from their champion, the rest of the residents are strategically useless for the coming conflict. Jihoon calculates that the enemy will reach the village by sunset, providing a brief window for the defenders to organize. When Rhea questions his knowledge, Jihoon explains that he successfully interrogated their captive to uncover the bandits' plan. Rhea recalls that the intruders are searching for a lost item belonging to their leader, sparking Jihoon's curiosity about its value. Seeking more information, Jihoon asks Rhea if she knows of any legendary treasures or rare resources hidden within Warren. Rhea suggests the item could be an ancient heirloom or a secret mineral vein, revealing potential reasons for the bandits' relentless pursuit. Rhea insists the village has nothing of value to humans, but Jihoon suspects the bandits are simply using a lost item as an excuse for conquest. The village warrior, Tor, formally addresses Jihoon as the new chief and requests immediate orders as the community awaits his guidance. Faced with the weight of leadership, Jihoon enters a state of deep concentration to devise a viable defense plan. He reflects on game mechanics, realizing that their only hope against overwhelming numbers lies in maximizing the villagers' individual capabilities. Focusing on the system's ranking tiers, Jihoon determines that high-level stats are the essential key to surviving the impending siege. Jihoon continues to question Rhea's true strength, skeptical of the claim that she could single-handedly defeat the entire village. He recognizes that without exact data, it is impossible to accurately compare the villagers' power levels against the coming bandit threat. Frustrated by the uncertainty, he wishes he possessed the ability to view detailed character stats just like in a traditional RPG. A breakthrough occurs as he remembers a specific system mechanic that might provide the very information he needs to lead effectively. He discovers the ruler's iPassive skill, a powerful tool that allows him to analyze the exact stats and grades of both monsters and items. Recalling how game interfaces typically function, Jihoon shouts a verbal command to open his status window. His initial attempt leads to a silent and uncomfortable moment, leaving Rhea visibly confused by his strange behavior. Feeling humiliated by the failure, he reflects on the standard mechanics of opening stat windows and inventories. Just as he begins to doubt himself, a mysterious and ominous red system window suddenly appears before him. Jihoon is shocked to find that while the command worked, the resulting interface appears glitchy and heavily distorted. Jihoon opens his storage, discovering it has been rebranded as Abyss Storage to reflect his current status within the monster faction. While finding the inventory empty, he suddenly recalls an important item he left behind during his frantic escape from the palace. A vision of his powerful, glowing red sword resurfaces, reminding him of the legendary weapon's immense potential. He realizes that the non-stop intensity of recent events caused him to completely overlook this essential piece of equipment. Looking back at the site of his transformation, Jihoon identifies exactly where his sword remains waiting amidst the palace ruins. Jihoon laments leaving his sword behind in the kingdom, while Rhea reprimands him for not storing such a vital item in his inventory. Recognizing that returning to the kingdom is currently impossible, Jihoon reluctantly accepts that he must move forward without his primary weapon. He continues to struggle with the game's interface, wondering why his standard status window refuses to open and if there is an alternative method to view his data. The system reveals that 4 passive skills are currently active, including Ruler's Eye, which allows him to analyze the stats of both monsters and objects. Additionally, the monster communication skill is confirmed as active, providing him with the essential ability to interact with the various non-human creatures of this world. Jihoon's system reveals powerful passive abilities, including an innate appeal to monsters and a level of strength that transcends human limits. Rhea grows frustrated with Jihoon's deep contemplation, urging him to take immediate action as the enemy forces continue to close in. While facing her outburst, Jihoon quietly wonders if his newly acquired abilities have unexpectedly stopped activating during this crisis. Overcome with guilt for compromising the village, Rhea turns to Jihoon and desperately asks him for tactical instructions to save her people. With a heavy heart, she officially declares her unwavering commitment to protecting Warren, firmly establishing their combined goal for the coming battle. Recognizing that time is running out, Jihoon decides to stop obsessing over traditional system menus like the stat window. He chooses to act immediately, activating the ruler's eye ability to gather the specific information he needs. Focusing his gaze on Rhea, the system confirms that target designation is complete as he prepares to analyze her data. A red system interface suddenly appears between them, leaving Rhea confused by the strange magical phenomenon. Jihoon reflects on the system's logic, realizing that his mental focus is the primary key to triggering these essential functions. Jihoon successfully activates the ruler's eye skill, discovering that analyzing stats only requires clear mental focus. He focuses his ability on Rhea, triggering a detailed system window that reveals her true combat potential. The system identifies Rhea as a B-rank warrior, a grade equivalent to that of an elite middle-tier knight. Jihoon is impressed by her stats, noting her profile as a water attribute melee fighter with exceptionally high attack power. Finally, the interface reveals that her primary skill is beastification, confirming his theory about her transformative combat abilities. Rhea recognizes the weight of Jihoon's new role as chief and promises to support him in any way possible to ensure the village's safety. Distracted during their talk, Jihoon notices a peculiar heart icon on the system screen and wonders what aspect of their relationship it represents. He focuses on the heart stat, which initially registers a value of 40, attempting to understand how the system tracks this specific data. While he watches, the number unexpectedly begins to drop, catching Jihoon off guard as the interface updates in real time. The heart value falls to 35, leaving him confused and troubled by the sudden decline in whatever metric the system is measuring. While interacting with his invisible system interface, Jihoon accidentally pokes Rhea on the nose, sparking her immediate anger. He desperately tries to apologize, but Rhea remains unconvinced, questioning if such a reckless person should truly lead their village. Furious at his perceived lack of maturity, Rhea loudly declares that she cannot accept him as their new chief. Following the awkward confrontation, a heavy silence settles over the group as they struggle to reconcile their differences. Despite the pushback, Jihoon officially assumes his role and orders Tor to gather the entire community for a vital meeting. Jihoon tries to maintain his composure after the awkward encounter with Rhea, dismissing his minor injuries as he prepares for his first act as chief. He organizes a massive line of beast folk, intending to use his unique abilities to evaluate the combat potential of every resident in Warren. After hours of grueling work, the last of the villagers, a timid sheep boy, finally steps forward to complete the census. Jihoon is left physically and mentally drained from the constant strain of using his stat-checking power on over 100 people. With a confirmed population of 114, he concludes that while their numbers are small, he now has the data needed to identify the community's strongest defenders. Jihoon uses his ruler's eye on the Rieseldrake, discovering that despite its S-rank status, its basic physical attacks are surprisingly weak. He notes that the creature's power is heavily concentrated in magic, specifically a devastating dragon breath ability that consumes all its mana. Because the pet recovers mana slowly, Jihoon realizes that its ultimate attack will be unusable for the immediate conflict. Turning his gaze to the villagers, he identifies B-rank Rhea and C-rank Tor as his only high-tier combatants. With his pet's magic sidelined, Jihoon concludes that his small team of elite fighters must carry the entire burden of the defense. Jihoon discovers that most villagers are E-rank, a grade so low it isn't even recognized in formal knight rankings. He notes that the upcoming encounter is rated at C-rank difficulty, revealing a massive power imbalance between the defenders and their objective. After auditing every resident's stats, he gains a clear and sobering understanding of the community's true vulnerability. Beyond the quality of their fighters, he confirms a severe numerical deficit of only 114 villagers against 200 bandits. The combined data paints a desperate picture, leaving Jihoon to face a nearly impossible struggle against a superior force. Comparing the timid villagers to the armed bandits, Jihoon realizes they are outclassed in every measurable category. Faced with these overwhelming statistics, he acknowledges that a standard victory is impossible at their current rate. However, he reminds himself that this world is no longer a game. It is a reality where numbers do not tell the whole story. He begins to look for advantages that cannot be measured by levels or ranks, searching for a way to turn the tide. With cold determination, Jihoon prepares to use the unpredictable nature of reality to overcome their numerical disadvantage. Jihoon identifies a nearby cavern as the key to creating tactical variables that the enemy cannot anticipate. He summons his strongest defenders, Tor and Rhea, to formally outline his high-stakes strategy for the coming battle. A dark tide of 200 bandits begins its final march through the valley toward the village's hidden borders. Led by their ruthless boss, the bandit crew advances through the forest, certain that their superior numbers will guarantee victory. The tension reaches its peak as a young beastfolk child spots the approaching army, signaling that the siege has officially begun. Two beastfolk children watch the approaching army from the forest, desperately planning to warn their chief of the imminent invasion. Their escape is suddenly cut short as a brutal attack strikes the boy, leaving his sister in a state of absolute shock. The young girl cries out for her fallen brother, while realizing they have been completely cornered by the enemy. The bandit leader, screaming all, emerges from the shadows to mock their failed warning with a cold and sinister grin. Defenseless and covered in blood, the girl collapses in fear as the ruthless invader prepares to end their interference once and for all. After a brutal encounter that leaves her bloodied, a young beastfolk girl desperately attempts to flee into the safety of the forest. Despite her frantic escape, the bandit leader prevents his men from immediately chasing after her, causing confusion within his ranks. One of the bandits openly protests his leader's decision, questioning the wisdom of allowing a witness to slip away. The subordinate demands an explanation for this uncharacteristic restraint, unable to grasp his boss's hidden strategy. With a dark and predatory smile, the bandit leader reveals that his inaction is intentional, explaining that he has already infected the girl for his own dark purposes. Jihoon takes command of the village's defense, coordinating the residents into teams as they prepare for the imminent bandit assault. A young beastfolk girl frantically flees toward the village, desperately trying to inform the community that the enemy has arrived. Jihoon senses the growing presence of the invaders, realizing that their time for preparation has finally run out. The tranquility of the village is shattered as the first wave of enemies arrives with explosive force, throwing the defenders into chaos. A village warrior observes the approaching humans with a mix of shock and determination, preparing to defend his home against the brutal invaders. Rhea is horrified to see blood falling like rain as the bandit leader's cruel tactic begins to manifest. A young beastfolk girl frantically reaches the settlement, announcing that the human invaders are right behind her. The girl collapses in terror at the entrance while confirming that the enemy is now at their doorstep. Jihoon reflects on his legendary history as a player who successfully repelled 100 waves of monsters. He recognizes this moment as the start of his first major defensive battle since joining the monster faction. With a look of absolute determination, he clenches his fist and prepares to lead the villagers through the coming onslaught. A group of men arrives at the entrance of the fox's den. The leader orders his team to finish the mission before sunset. The group shouts loudly as they charge into the dark cave. A fox-eared girl and a boy watch the intruders from the shadows. The boy tells the nervous girl that the start of their plan is crucial. A group of armed men marches steadily through the dark tunnel. One scout estimates they will reach the village in 30 minutes. The arrogant leader mocks their enemies for hiding in silence. He angrily swears to get revenge on the person who punched him. The sound of heavy footsteps echoes as they move forward. A man suddenly notices a strange sound coming from below. The rocky ground beneath the group begins to crack and shake. He yells desperately for everyone to dodge the trap. The cave floor collapses and crushes the screaming invaders. A thick cloud of dust billows out from the destroyed tunnel. A startled man screams as the ground suddenly collapses. Several invaders fall helplessly into a deep, log-filled pit. Cries of pain echo from the bottom as men break their limbs. A survivor shouts to his boss that they walked into a trap. The leader's eyes widen with intense rage at the ambush. Diagrams explain how the hidden pit trap functions. Wooden planks collapse when heavy weight is applied. Victims fall helplessly into the deep hole below. The men are shocked that traps appeared overnight. They hesitate to enter the dark, dangerous tunnel. A worried subordinate warns his boss about hidden dangers. The angry leader screams at his men for hesitating. Suddenly, a massive boulder drops from the cave ceiling. The heavy rock crashes down with a loud thud. Terrified men wonder how the enemy predicted their path. The leader studies the rocky floor of the cave. He notices that loose gravel hides the traps. The men figure out where the pits are located. The boss laughs at the enemy's simple tactics. He claims these tricks prove the defenders are weak. The invaders carefully advance while avoiding the discovered traps. The fox girl watches from hiding and begins to panic. Her human partner confidently smiles and says this was planned. He explains that digging perfect traps was impossible in time. He knew the enemy would eventually figure out the trick. The boy reveals that most of the ground traps are fake. He explains that fear has slowed the enemy's march significantly. The invaders walk slowly and carefully to avoid the imaginary dangers. Outside the cave, the peaceful cliffside begins to crumble. Large cracks suddenly appear on the surface of the rock wall. The group follows instructions to take the right path ahead. The leader looks puzzled when they reach the split in the road. 3 dark tunnels appear instead of the expected path. The confused men argue about which direction is correct. They realize their memory of the route contradicts reality. The leader realizes the traps were just a delay tactic. He refuses to give the enemy more time to prepare. He orders his army to split into 3 separate groups. The men advance quickly into the different dark tunnels. A commander named Crane leads his team down the left path. The boss orders Dump to lead a group down the middle path. He decides to take the right tunnel for himself and his men. Water drips from the ceiling as the teams explore the dark caves. One group groans in frustration when they reach a dead end. Dump's squad splashes through water towards a bright light ahead. The large warrior shouts for his men to prepare for battle. A soldier excitedly points out the bright exit ahead. The leader arrogantly believes he chose the correct path. He commands his army to kill everyone without mercy. The soldiers scream as they charge toward the light. The confused leader emerges from the cave into a dense forest. He is shocked to find trees instead of the enemy village. Meanwhile, the bald warriors group exits a different tunnel nearby. They successfully spot the hidden settlement in the valley below. The large man orders his troops to hold their position. The bald commander sends a messenger back to the main group. A soldier points out a person tied to a distant tree. The bound hostage struggles helplessly against his ropes and gag. The army rushes across the field to rescue the prisoner. The frantic man screams as his rescuers ask about the boss. The bald commander is shocked by how few soldiers remain. A messenger runs back into the dark tunnel alone. Suddenly, a fast kick flies toward the surprised man's face. The fox girl strikes him with a powerful, explosive blow. The defeated spy coughs blood as he hits the wall. The strategist explains how they gained the advantage. Fake traps successfully confused and slowed the enemy. The invaders were tricked into splitting their army apart. A soldier panics because their group is now too small. The bald leader freezes as he realizes they are surrounded. A large army of demi-humans hides in the trees. The young commander steps out of the dark cave. He shouts for all his units to charge immediately. The warriors scream as they rush down the hill. The boy declares that his real strategy begins now. The bald warrior screams for his men to kill everyone. The invading army charges recklessly toward the defending forces. The giant leader aims his heavy hammer at a small girl. Suddenly, the boy orders his troops to use beast transformation. A massive cloud of dust rises from the powerful strike. The bald leader is shocked as his enemies suddenly vanish. The boy explains that beast folk produce smoke when transforming. He uses this smoke to create a blinding screen on the battlefield. Confused soldiers struggle to see through the thick gray fog. The young commander orders the Taurus unit to attack next. A massive creature roars as it charges through the smoke. Terrified soldiers are thrown high into the air by the impact. Small, fast animals dart around the confused men's feet. A frustrated warrior curses the beasts while swinging his weapon. He trips and loses his balance, startled by the tiny attackers. A rabbit kicks a soldier violently in the face. The men shout angrily while fighting the fast animals. Their attacks miss the targets and hit only dust. A crying sheep protects itself with its thick, fluffy wool. Soldiers scream in pain as rocks strike their heads. A small red fox taunts the angry men from above. The boy watches confidently as his plan succeeds. He knows the smoke and numbers give them an edge. Frustrated soldiers scream for cover against the rabbits. They swing their weapons wildly at the small, fast targets. The boy orders Rhea to support the flank. She immediately dashes away with incredible speed. He watches intently as she rushes into battle. The fox girl sprints toward the enemy group. An angry man aims his crossbow at her. A sharp arrow flies toward the running girl's back. She sees the weapon reflected in her wide eye. She spins quickly to deflect the incoming shot. Her hand touches the ground to steady her movement. She leaps high into the air to counterattack. The large man blocks the girl's flying kick. He smiles and mocks her for being weak. She crouches down to prepare for the next strike. Suddenly, she kicks him hard under the chin. The man yells in pain as his head snaps back. The fox girl moves with blinding speed to attack. She slams the large enemy deep into the ground. The defeated body slides toward the surprised hostage. She stands confidently over the trembling man. Blood trickles from his nose as he stares in shock. The fox girl stomps down hard on her enemy. The defeated man groans in pain on the ground. She stands victoriously over the unconscious soldiers. She warns the invaders not to underestimate them. The bald leader watches his army struggle in battle. The furious leader clenches his fist tightly. He shouts to activate a powerful skill. His body grows huge and incredibly muscular. The boy is shocked by the sudden transformation. He realizes his enemy is a high-ranking knight. The bald leader uses a skill to increase his size. He mocks the frightened beast folk for being small. Suddenly, a deep voice calls the man a weakling. A giant hand grabs onto a tree near the group. The stunned commander looks up at a massive bull monster. The bald man freezes in terror at the massive attack. A huge shockwave blasts across the grassy battlefield. The boy watches the destruction with a stunned expression. Deep inside a dark cave, water drips into a puddle. An impatient soldier sits alone and complains about waiting. The confused leader wonders why his men haven't returned. He impatiently orders the group to move to the other side. Outside, the gray-haired boy looks over his captives. 60 enemy soldiers are buried up to their necks in dirt. The boy realizes these prisoners guarantee his escape plan. The young commander asks for a report on their casualties. A large bull soldier lists the injured and fighting capable. The boy reflects on their losses despite the successful ambush. He worries that the remaining enemies still outnumber them. Meanwhile, a new group of invaders approaches through the cave. The boy decides to increase his army's fighting power. He commands tourists to distribute the loot to everyone. Floating stats appear over the weapons scattered on the grass. Soldiers pick up various weapons scattered on the ground. One warrior claims the heavy hammer for himself. The beast folk pose confidently with their new gear. The leader activates a skill called Ruler's Eye. Red status screens display the updated power of each unit. Red status screens reveal that their attack power has doubled. The boy is pleasantly surprised by the sudden strength increase. Heavy footsteps echo as a new group exits the cave. The arriving soldiers look around the area in confusion. One man wonders why the battlefield is so strangely quiet. The shocked leader finds a field full of buried heads. He screams in terror, thinking his men are dead. He realizes the gagged soldiers are actually still alive. He promises to rescue the trapped men immediately. He wonders why there are so many empty holes nearby. Armed rabbits ambush the soldier trying to help. Screams of pain echo through the rocky canyon. The main group runs desperately through a dark tunnel. The frustrated leader realizes they are completely lost. A soldier claims they finally found the right path. A man steps forward and notices something is wrong. The group realizes their weight has triggered a trap. Panic spreads as the ground begins to shake. A boot slips on the crumbling cave floor. The soldiers fall as the earth collapses underneath them. The confused men wonder what just happened. The leader grabs a spear to test the ground. He strikes the floor violently with the weapon. The tip hits solid stone instead of a hole. The boss realizes the remaining traps are fake. The gang leader angrily swears revenge on his enemies. A status screen reveals the name Tractor and B rank. An exhausted messenger runs desperately toward the group. He shouts that he found the correct path ahead. Tractor looks surprised as the man reports the news. The sun sets over the village as the battle ends. A soldier reports that all enemies have been captured. The leader looks out at the field of buried heads. Diagrams show how he altered the tunnel's path. This trick successfully bought the defenders enough time. The young leader prepares for the final battle. A buried prisoner spits out his gag to speak. He arrogantly warns that his powerful boss is coming. The man boasts about the strength of Screaming Drill. The fox girl kicks him in the face to silence him. The fox girl reports the number of remaining enemies. The boy calculates the strength of the bandit forces. His beast army is tired after fighting 2 battles. A mysterious purple symbol glows in the leader's eye. He sees that his allies have leveled up significantly. The confident boy holds a heavy sword on his shoulder. He declares that they have grown stronger than before. Heavy footsteps approach as the sun begins to set. The alert fox girl warns that the enemies are here. The bandit leader menacingly steps out of the dark cave. Defeated soldiers are buried up to their necks in the ground. The disgusted leader calls his captured men pathetic fools. He asks the young boy if this trap was his scheme. The boy calmly corrects him by calling it a strategy. The bandit boss laughs at his enemy's bold confidence. The bandit leader warns that there won't be another victory. The boy calmly replies that he has an offer to make. A sword is suddenly held against the buried bandit's throat. The terrified prisoner sweats profusely as he faces death. The boy orders the enemies to drop their weapons immediately. The bandit leader clenches his jaw in silent frustration. The buried hostage begs his brother to save him. The boy feels like a villain for using such tactics. A weapon clatters to the ground as the enemy surrenders. The young commander is shocked that they actually gave up. The menacing bandits start laughing in the darkness. The boy becomes suspicious of their sudden confidence. The leader slams his hand onto the dusty ground. Purple magical energy surges around the smiling man. The terrified boy realizes what spell is being cast. The bandit leader activates a powerful skill called Screaming Drill. Purple energy surrounds the enemy soldiers and boosts their stats. The young commander watches in horror as their power skyrockets. Crazed bandits with glowing eyes prepare to slaughter everyone. An army of warriors charges across the field as the command to attack is given. Fierce close-quarters combat erupts between the two opposing forces. A warrior in green stands ready amidst a cloud of dust. He swings his sword to defend against the leaping rabbit creatures. A rabbit creature lands a powerful blow, making him cry out in pain. He hunches over in exhaustion as his small opponents watch him. A sinister enemy with glowing purple eyes mockingly asks if he is finished. Two small brown rabbits look terrified as a weapon is pointed toward them. A grinning man with glowing purple eyes grabs a rabbit creature by its ears. A muscular beast man carries a giant hammer into the middle of a chaotic fight. Someone shouts a command to grab the enemy as the beast man swings a long rope. The fierce beast man stares ahead with determination while gripping his weapon tightly. Soldiers work together to pull heavy ropes and secure their target. A warrior's feet slide across the grass as he struggles to hold his ground. The group takes their chance to pin down the massive bull-like creature. A fierce beast man shouts a battle cry while pulling a rope with all his might. Soldiers use flaming torches to attack the trapped creature as it cries out in pain. Soldiers use crossbows to fire at small, flying red creatures in the sky. The young man realizes his team is being pushed back despite their efforts to level up. He looks around with a worried expression and calls out for Rhea. Rhea, the blue-clad beast girl, delivers a powerful jumping strike against a large enemy. She lands gracefully on the grass in a crouched position, ready for more combat. Rhea is surrounded by mocking enemies who laugh at her struggle. She looks exhausted and wipes blood from her mouth with a determined glare. The young man watches with concern, realizing that Rhea has reached her limit. He stares ahead intently as a large hand reaches out toward his face. A massive explosion erupts in the forest, sending dust and debris into the air. A girl falls to the ground in the middle of the battle. The young hero decides there is only one way to win the fight. He realizes that he must take out the enemy leader immediately. The bandit leader shouts a command for his men to charge forward. A scarred warrior brutally strikes down a fallen beast man. The beast man looks ahead with a very serious and determined expression. The hero remains calm while assessing the battlefield. He reminds the warrior that his next transformation will only last for 3 minutes. The beast man is told to hold out until he receives a specific signal. An angry enemy commander orders his troops to finish the battle quickly. Taurus is surrounded and attacked by a group of fierce bandits. An enemy's sword strikes his tough skin but fails to cause damage. Taurus activates his awakening skill and blasts back all nearby attackers. The hero and Taurus charge forward together to start their counterattack. He runs with great speed, aiming to defeat the boss within 3 minutes. Taurus charges across the field while a terrified enemy begs for mercy. The bandit leader watches the chaos with a confident and arrogant smile. Taurus lets out a thunderous roar while gripping a thick rope. With glowing white eyes, Taurus focuses his full strength on the battle. An enemy is sent flying through the air as Taurus confronts the boss. The arrogant bandit leader mockingly tells Taurus to let go of the rope. Taurus lunges forward with a fierce roar to deliver a powerful strike. A massive cloud of dust and debris erupts as Taurus impacts the ground. The boss remains completely unharmed and continues to insult Taurus's strength. He smiles confidently through the smoke, showing that the attack had no effect. The hero rushes forward through the dust with his sword drawn. The enemy leader wears a smug and sinister grin as he watches the battle. He stands firmly on the grass while dust swirls around his boots. The hero watches in despair as Taurus lies defeated on the ground before him. He looks on with wide, terrified eyes as the situation turns dire. Taurus crashes into the earth with a violent impact. He lies defeated and unconscious amidst the thick smoke. The enemy leader lands forcefully on the cracked ground. The hero sits in despair, realizing the battle is almost lost. The villain's face is twisted into a smug, victorious grin. A fierce enemy dives down to launch a surprise attack from above. Rhea grabs her opponent forcefully during the heat of the battle. Jihoon screams in pain as he takes a brutal hit from the enemy. Rhea looks on with deep concern and calls out to her comrade. Jihoon stares ahead with blood on his face and a look of pure determination. The powerful leader stands ready to fight in the shadows. He leaps from the cliffs to crush his fallen opponent. A hand grips the rough rock with immense force. Blood drips down his face, but he remains completely focused. He activates a passive skill that transcends all human strength. Jihoon screams as he unleashes his last hope in a powerful final attack. A unique ability significantly boosts all of his combat stats when he strikes a human. The enemy leader is completely shocked by Jihoon's sudden and massive increase in strength. He puts everything he has into one last devastating blow to defeat his opponent. Rhea looks on with a stunned expression as the battle reaches its climax. Taurus watches intently, hoping for a miracle to save them. The hero delivers a final, bone-crushing strike to his opponent's neck. He stands tall, certain that he has finished the fight for good. A single boot lands firmly on the ground amidst the swirling dust. Jihoon stands his ground and reminds the enemy of his warning. The bloody villain laughs maniacally after surviving a deadly strike. The young hero wonders how it is even possible to defeat such a monster. He gasps in pain while struggling to keep up with the intense fight. Jihoon finally falls to his knees as his strength begins to fail him. The powerful villain stands mockingly over the kneeling hero. The injured boy touches the ground as he struggles to stay upright. He stares with fierce determination, refusing to fall at this spot. Suddenly, the enemy reaches down and grabs the boy's head. The villain brutally slams the hero's face into the hard ground. The villain pins the hero's face against the cracked earth, refusing to let him up. He mockingly commands the hero to stay down so everyone can see his defeat. The villain stands victoriously over the fallen boy in front of the entire army. The hero's comrades watch from a distance, crying out for their leader in despair. Taurus looks on with a shocked and worried expression as he sees the chief's condition. Taurus screams at Leah to get away from the dangerous enemy. An enemy aims a crossbow and fires a bolt directly at Leah. Leah is struck in the leg by an arrow while running to help. She looks on in shock and pain as she is forced to stop. Jihoon lies bloodied on the ground, watching the tragic scene. The villain pins Jihoon down as he desperately cries out for Leah. The sky turns into a deep purple sunset as the day comes to an end. The bandit leader gloats that it is already too late for anyone to save them. The victorious bandits cheer and shout for everyone to listen to them. A calm warrior smiles and declares that the war is finally over. The villain smiles coldly and commands his men to burn everything. He pins the boy's head to the ground as the destruction begins. Flaming torches are thrown onto the village houses and farm fields. A torch lands on a thatched roof, quickly starting a fire. The entire harvest is set ablaze as the enemy destroys the food supply. A flaming torch lands on a pile of wood, quickly spreading fire through the village. The hero watches in total shock and screams in denial as his home burns. Massive orange flames completely engulf the wooden houses. Panic spreads through the streets as villagers scream for help. Everyone is ordered to run as the entire village is consumed by the fire. Bandits throw flaming torches into the village while cheering for its destruction. Two rabbit-eared children watch helplessly as the fire consumes their home. The villain pins the boy's face to the ground while mocking his naivety. He glares with a pained expression, realizing that the losing side loses everything. The bandits cruelly torment their captives while laughing at their misery. Taurus stands helpless as he is forced to watch the destruction of his family. A young girl desperately tries to help her fallen friend amidst the chaos. The entire village is consumed by a massive and unstoppable wall of fire. The villain grips his victim tightly, showing no mercy for their suffering. He lifts the defeated hero by the neck and threatens to take his life. An injured Rhea watches in fear and desperately calls out for Jihoon. Weak hands reach out into the air as the hero struggles to move. The villain mocks the hero for refusing to give up a hopeless battle. Covered in blood, the boy declares that he absolutely cannot afford to lose. A peaceful memory of a smiling woman and her cat flashes through his mind. A dark message reveals that the monster's final goal is to completely wipe out humanity. Despite his injuries, the hero vows to never give up until he reaches his goal. The powerful villain holds the boy by the neck and demands that he surrender. A group of terrified rabbit-eared girls watches the brutal scene with tearful eyes. Taurus looks on with a worried expression, calling out to his fallen leader. Rhea looks on with a pale face and calls out Jihoon's name in despair. The villain mocks Jihoon's refusal to quit while lifting him off the ground. He reaches for his dagger to deliver the final, lethal blow. Jihoon stares at the blade with a bloodied face as the villain declares his role is over. A cold, bright moon shines over the village as fire and smoke consume everything. A close-up shows a glowing yellow moon reflected in a wide eye. The villain holds the hero by the throat amidst a cloud of smoke. Two purple silhouettes fall rapidly through the white void. A bandaged hand reaches out desperately toward the light. The villain looks on in complete shock as something unexpected happens. A blood-stained clawed hand reaches out into the white space. The young boy looks back with a shocked and worried expression. Unlike other beast folk, Rhea struggled to awaken her true hidden powers. She stood alone, staring into the distance while reflecting on her failure. Even while being brutally attacked, she refused to use her secret ability. A hand lies motionless on the ground as the dust of battle swirls. Rhea successfully activates her Foxfolk Awakening skill under the moonlight. Rhea stands ready and asks Jihoon for his next command. Jihoon smiles through the blood on his face, feeling the tide turn. The bandit leader screams in agony after his arm is severely injured. Jihoon vows with intense determination to defeat every last bandit.